Amelia Earhart is without a doubt the most well-known female aviator in history. She captured the attention of the world through her courage, charisma, and independence. In 1922, she set the women's world altitude record, and then in 1928, she was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, for which she received a ticker tape parade. She then flew it again, solo, in 1932. She was a popular author, lecturer, and die-hard aviation advocate before her disappearance over the Pacific Ocean in 1937 while attempting to fly around the world. She remains a source of enduring fascination as much for her mysterious death as for her iconic, dazzling life. A more traditional role for women in early aviation was that of the flight attendant. Known originally as stewardesses, these young women had a chance at independence, self-sufficiency, and travel that was almost unheard of at the time. But it came with strings attached. The first stewardesses hired by Air Canada had to be registered nurses who understood they would lose their jobs if they married or became pregnant. In fact, my very own mother was a registered nurse and stewardess with Trans-Canada Airways. She started in 1953, and after a brief 14-month career, she was terminated because she married my dad. Flash forward nearly 70 years and the doors have opened up, way up, and today we're going to meet a sample of dedicated female pilots from all walks of life. Since the early 60s, people have been skydiving at this airport. In the 90s, it became an actual business, and since that point in time, literally thousands of people have paid for the pleasure of falling out of an airplane. And it's always a crowd favorite to watch people jump out of an airplane and safely glide to Earth below. Tell me how you first got involved in aviation.
My mom's a flight attendant for Air Canada. When I was about 15 or 16, I decided that I wanted to get into aviation. My dad had a couple friends who had planes and took me up, and I loved it to pieces. So when I was in high school, took a couple courses like physics and math that allowed you to pursue something like this, and said yeah. And I went to Pacific Flying Club, which is in Boundary Bay, and I started my private pilot license there. And then they said, hey, we have this college course, BCIT, that's connected with it, and would you like to do it? And I said, yeah, definitely. So I applied for that and got into that, and it just kind of went from there. I have commercial, multi-engine, and IFR. And I had done a jump here in 2003, and I knew I loved the whole atmosphere and enthusiasm around skydiving. It came to meet Ian, a friend of my dad's, used to go to college with him and jumped here. If you ever have a position, I would love to fly for you guys, right? A few months later, his pilot that he had from last year got a new job, and now here I am. It's exciting. I mean, the first thing is getting used to the door being open, right? There's a lot of opposite rudder that you have to use to balance. And when you've got three 200-pound guys hanging off your wing, you know, you've got the steering column full over because you're just to keep the wing straight, and you've got full power just to keep the airspeed up and everything. Did you ever think you'd be in a position where you'd have to have full and opposite rudder and power and everything else? Anything's possible, I guess, right? I never thought I couldn't do it. I never thought there was a difference because I was female at all, actually. There are challenges, I guess you could say, with people still look at you sometimes because you're around 100 men and you're the only woman, you know? And you just don't let comments bother you ever. And you just do, you're your own competition, really, you know? You just be the best and learn the most you can and get the most experience out of everything that you can.
26 right. Thank you.
We're in La Ronge, Saskatchewan right now, but earlier this year we were at Three Valley Gap where we had a great conversation with Sarah, a new helicopter pilot in the area.
I was a kid, thought being a snowbird might be a neat idea. Watched them in Kelowna on the bridge and heard them on the radio. And I asked my dad, like, if there are any girls up there, and he didn't know. And I thought, okay, well, there's probably, by the time I'm ready, there'll be girls up there. And anyway, so I was on my way to pick up my books once I started thinking about it again when I was 17, you know, thinking about the future. And I saw a helicopter hovering in the fields, and I was like, oh, that looked cool. So I called a flight company and they gave me a number to a school. I went for a flight and we picked up in the hover, did a 180, and I was sold. It was the hover. To fly is great, but to hover is divine. So yeah, that's kind of what got me in it. I picked a school in Kelowna, did my training there, moved to Alberta, flew there for 3 years, and finally 3 years ago made my way back to the mountains.
It's a lot of hard work.
Yep.
A lot of determination.
Yeah.
A little bit of debt, like quite
Yeah,
a bit of debt.
It's expensive. Yeah.
So you really have to want it.
Yes.
Okay, so now we flash forward. You got some time, you got about 400 hours flying helicopters. Where's the next step? Where do you want to go from here? Where do you progress to?
Well, I'm in the mountains now, so I want to progress more in the mountains. Well, you know, dropping off hikers, maybe flying in the winter time. There's lots of heli skiing, and you know, Revelstoke is a up-and-coming ski resort. Just hopefully I can stick in the mountains and continue from there. I'd like to do some mountain rescue eventually. That's where I'd like to take it.
What's the absolute best thing about operating the R44 in this valley?
Instead of talking about it down here, why don't I take you out for a ride and show you? Fast machine, it's very lightweight, and it can handle the turbulence. We're in the Columbia Range right now, and in the Monashee portion of that. And as we come further to the east, you're going to start to see more jagged peaks and rugged terrain as the mountains make their way to the Rockies. So we have a lot of snow actually for this time of year.
Stay tuned for more Women in the Skies when Wings Over Canada returns.
DVD copies of the Wings Over Canada series are available, singly or in box sets at wingsovercanada.ca or at 1-866-909-4647.